of you like antiques? I love antiques. After all, one person's junk is another person's treasure. My great uncle Yoshio loved antiques. To come to think of it, he was a little bit of an antique himself. His 100-year-old mansion in Kyoto, the old capital city of Japan, was filled with stuff. Cracked tea bowls and chipped plates, rusted samurai swords, and tattered hanging scrolls with faded sumie painting. Moldy folding screens and cedar cabinets that just would not open. My great uncle was the king of flea market, always looking for a special find. He used to love to trade everything. In fact, he told me that the only old thing in his house he would not trade was his wife. He said she was a special vintage. But really, appreciating antique is an art of its own. And my great uncle considered himself to be an expert. I remember accompanying him to this fancy antique shop in downtown Osaka when I was about 9 years old. In the store, the lights were dim. The air smelled musty. Going through the aisle with my great uncle, I was amazed at how their price tags had so many zeros on them. Motoko, look at these. My great uncle stopped appreciatively in front of these two white ceramic vases with flowery blue patterns all over them. Those two vases looked identical to me except for their sizes. One was about a foot tall, the other one nearly twice as tall. I checked the price tag for the smaller vase and nearly screamed. It said 400,000 yen. In today's currency, $4,000. Shh, my great uncle shushed me as he continued to examine the vases. I looked around and saw a plump, middle-aged store lady looking suspiciously over at him. Then I checked the price tag for the bigger vase, and it said 200,000 yen, only $2,000. I don't get it, great uncle. How come the smaller vase is twice as expensive as the bigger one? Oh, my little Motoko, my great uncle said. In the antique business, you must know that size does not matter. That is why I like it. You must look at the quality of the workmanship. Look at the smaller vase, it's perfect. The glaze, the flowery blue patterns reflect the light just so. The bigger vase, the quality, not as good. Now, I saw no difference whatsoever, but I respectfully nodded. But just then, we saw from behind us, excuse me, there has been a mistake. We turned around and there was that plump store lady standing behind us. She bowed, nudged herself in between us, grabbed the two price tags, and switched them. So I guess size does matter. Another time, when I was in middle school, my great uncle spent a fortune at a flea market and brought home this tattered hanging scroll with faded calligraphy all over it. He proudly hung it in the alcove in his Japanese-style living room. You would not believe how valuable this is, he beamed. I can't read it, great uncle. What does it say? This is a poem that famous Buddhist priest Kobo wrote to praise the shogun warrior Yoritomo in the 12th century. Now, by this time I was in middle school, so I had learned something about the history of medieval Japan. I said, wait a minute, great uncle, didn't the famous Buddhist priest Kobo live in the 9th century? How could he have written a poem about the warrior in the 12th century? That's impossible. My great uncle was unperturbed. He answered with perfect contentment. That's what makes this a truly rare find. Well, really, maybe the value of antiques lie not in the objects themselves, but in the stories that come with them. So here's a story called Neko no Sara, Cat's Dish. Once, there was a traveling merchant specializing in antique dealership. On his way home from a business trip in the big city, he stopped at the rustic tea shop in the countryside to rest. The shop was owned by a scraggling-looking old man who brought out the tea and the rice cakes. The old man seemed to have several cats. One of them, a marmalade kitten, came over and climbed up onto the merchant's lap and started to purr. "I see you like cats," the merchant observed as he sipped his tea. "Since my wife died, they are my only companions," the old man smiled. The cat jumped off the merchant's lap and walked over to a dingy old bowl on the dirt floor to eat something out of it. Suddenly, the merchant noticed something so incredible he had to look twice. This dingy old bowl that the cat was eating out of was no ordinary bowl. In fact, it looked like a rare and precious vintage tea bowl from ancient Korea called a pearl moon bowl. Could this be? But that's impossible. But still, just then the old man walked into the kitchen, so the merchant quickly picked up the bowl to examine it. And indeed, there was no mistake. This was a pearl moon bowl, so rare and precious that it's worth 300 gold coins in the big city. Well, how come the old man is using it for a cat's dish? I bet he has no idea. So the merchant had put down the bowl and scooped up the cat and gently petting him when the old man came back from the kitchen. "I see you like cats too," he smiled. "Yes, I do, especially this one. He seemed to like me too." "I bet he does." "Well, listen, old man," the merchant tried to sound wistful. "My wife and I have no children. We used to have a cat, but it died 3 months ago, and my wife has been inconsolable. I've been meaning to get her a new cat, and this kitty will be perfect. Would you sell him to me, old man?" "Oh, I don't know. These cats are my family." "I understand, but I would really like him. I would give you 3 gold coins for him." 3 gold coins? The old man was incredulous. Well, whichever way you look at it, this little kitty is not worth that much money." "He is to me," the merchant insisted. "Please, it will mean so much for my wife." "Are you sure?" "All right." The old man bowed as the merchant handed him the 3 gold coins and said, "Please take good care of my kitty. That one likes to eat dried fish flakes with plain white rice." "Oh, speaking of cat food," the merchant stood up casually, "people say that a cat would like to stick with his own bowl. It may help him feel more comfortable in his new home if he could use the same old bowl. You wouldn't mind if I took the bowl with me, would you?" Picked up the bowl. The old man said, "Oh, no, Mr. Merchant, you cannot take that bowl." And he took it away. "Well, why not? It's just a dingy old bowl. I gave you 3 gold coins, remember?" No, Mr. Merchant. You may not know this, but this bowl is a rare, precious vintage from ancient Korea. It's called a pearl moon bowl, and it is worth 300 gold coins in the city. "What? Really? I had no idea." The merchant's face turned red in shock and embarrassment. "If that's the case, how come you're using such a precious dish for a cat?" "Well, that is the curious thing," the old man said. "When I use that dish that way, once in a while, somebody buys a cat from me for 3 gold coins."